In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Peace be upon you. Today, we will finally return to that era when the actual flood of Prophet Noah occurred. And today, we will see this flood with our own eyes for the first time. To be honest, today's video is one of those videos that required the most effort from me to prepare, collecting data from 44 commentaries and then verifying it. No wonder it took me almost 2 weeks to prepare this episode. Look, what most YouTube channels do nowadays is just pick up a topic, watch 4 or 5 existing videos on it, rearrange some words here and there, create a clickbait-style spicy thumbnail, and quickly release a new video. Because the truth is that most people only care about their viewership. I often get messages saying, "Brother, you should also make spicy thumbnails," or "Brother, you should upload one video daily so your viewership remains consistent." But I believe from my heart that I should not lie to my viewers. The thumbnail should only show what is actually present in the video. And secondly, only true and authentic knowledge should reach you. No matter how much effort I have to put in for this, even if I have to spend 2 weeks on just one video. Quality and honesty over quantity. Because this channel has been my family. So if the video is a bit late, understand that either I am working very hard on it, or understand that something has happened to me. So, come on, let's start that episode of the series that I have been waiting to make for the past several years. Before and after Prophet Noah's flood, some things happened that when I tell you, those things will seem strange and unusual to you. For example, how did the animals gather? Which animals gathered? How big was that ark after all? And then, where did that water come from? So much water. And what all did it wash away? Today, when I give you answers to all these questions, I am confident that most of you will think that you have never thought like this before, nor heard such incidents. But I assure you that everything I am going to tell you today, according to my knowledge, will not only all be true, but will also shake you up. And for that, it is very important that first I tell you some things about the era of Prophet Noah. In Sahih ibn Hibban, there is a narration from Salama ibn Imama that a man came to the Prophet Muhammad and asked, "O Messenger of Allah, was Adam a prophet?" The Prophet said, "Yes." Then he asked, "O Messenger of Allah, did Adam also talk with his Lord?" The Messenger of Allah said, "Yes, Adam also conversed with his Lord." Then he asked, "O Messenger of Allah, how long after Adam did Noah come?" The Prophet said, "After 10 generations." This is a very famous hadith and is also present in Silsila as Sahiha. But how long were these 10 generations? Nobody really knows. Each of these generations could be just 1 year, or even 1,000 years each. There is no way to tell. Only between Adam and Noah, 10 generations passed, which amounts to how many years, no one knows this. But another very interesting thing is that the biochemistry of those times was completely different from our times. For example, from Surah Al-Ankabut we learn that Prophet Noah alone preached to his people for approximately 950 years. And if you look at the lifespans of people before the flood, 900 years was an average lifespan for them. For instance, when the father of Prophet Idris, Yared, was born. But before the flood, a completely different dimension was working in this world. I am telling you this repeatedly because what you are about to see and hear ahead will make you feel like I am talking about some other realm, some other dimension. Regarding Prophet Noah's era, in At-Tabaqat al-Kubra, there is a narration from Ibn Abbas that when Noah was born, at that time there was no person left to stop humans from evil. And what was the biggest evil at that time? Ancestor-worship, worshipping one's forefathers. We get this information from the Quran, such as Surah Nuh, and secondly from a very strong lead that we also get from history books. Once Imam Abu Ja'far Bakir was praying, and some people sitting around him were talking among themselves. In their mutual discussion, the name of Yazid ibn Muhallab came up. When Imam Bakir finished his prayer, he asked, "What were you talking about regarding Yazid bin Muhallab? Do you know that he was killed at a place where worship of other than Allah first began?" where idol worship first started. That place is Babylon, and there lived an ancestor of Noah's people named Wad. When he died, Wad's family members made a statue of him, which they then began to worship. And thus idol worship began from there. Imam Bakir's narration has been written by Imam Ibn Jarir in his commentary. Based on this narration, when I reopened my research work on the ancient history of Babylon and that entire region and my old notes, I found a very interesting thing. In the intermediate areas from Babylon to Jordan, 3,500-year-old statues have been found, altogether 32 statues, which have 2 heads each. And this is very interesting. We know that they used to worship these statues. But in the language of symbology, 2 heads carry very interesting meanings within them. These heads are symbolic. They are representations. One head represents the ancestor of a family that his household members used to worship. But the other head represents the ancestor of the entire village that everyone together used to worship. In simple words, this is irrefutable proof of ancestor worship that occurred 35,000 years ago. Now, ancestor worship was happening in Prophet Noah's era. This was a very big evil. But besides this, there was another evil among those people that was much greater, which I will definitely discuss with you in the coming episodes, inshallah, because it was a very shocking kind of evil that had emerged in Noah's era. And to purify the earth from it, a great flood was sent. By Noah's time, no one was left to save these people from evils. Therefore, Ibn Abbas says that at the age of 40, Prophet Noah was appointed as a messenger to his people. At the age of 480, Hafiz ibn Asakir has written an incident in his book, rather my favorite book, Tariq Dimashq, which he narrated from the great Qur'anic commentator Mujahid. Mujahid says that at the age of 480, when Noah used to stand and preach among his people, those people used to make fun of him a lot, trouble him, cause him pain. By the way, we also learned from the Quran that those people used to trouble Noah. So on one such occasion, a person asked his father, and this conversation is worth listening to, where he says, "O my Lord." What is he calling his father? "O my Lord." Why? Because they are involved in ancestor worship. They consider their forefathers as their gods. He says, "O my Lord, who is this old man who shouts loudly every day and doesn't get tired?" His father replied, "My father told me who heard from his grandfather that this old man has been appointed to this work since he has been alive." And hearing his father's words, that person threw a stone at Noah, which also injured the prophet. And then Prophet Noah made that prayer which we learn from Surah Al-Qamar. "O my Lord, now I have become helpless, therefore now you help me." And from here onwards, the punishment of flood began on those people. And how did this flood begin? From a revelation that came to Noah from Allah. The mention of this revelation is in Surah Hud. "We revealed to Noah that, O Noah, whoever from your people was to believe has now believed. Besides them, no one else will believe. Therefore, do not be sad about their words. And now, make an ark before our eyes according to our revelation." And from here I am now directing this topic straight to Prophet Noah's great ark. There is a narration from Abdullah ibn Abbas that once the disciples of Jesus asked him, "O Jesus, son of Mary, how good it would be if you could bring someone to life for us who could tell us about Noah's ark in detail." And we all know from the Quran that Allah had given Jesus the miracle of bringing the dead to life. So Jesus accepted their request and took them from Jerusalem outside to a mound of earth, that is, a heap of earth, a small heap. From there he picked up a handful of soil and said, "Do you know whose soil this is?" The disciples said, "No, Allah and His Messenger know better." Jesus replied, "This is the soil from the grave of Noah's son, Ham." In some narrations of this incident, it is also mentioned that it was not Ham, but the soil from the grave of Ham, the son, Canaan. Anyway, Jesus placed his staff in this soil and called out loudly, "Rise by Allah's command," meaning, stand up by Allah's order. And Ibn Abbas says that at that very moment, a very old man with white hair, shaking soil from his hair, came out of that pit and started asking, "Has the day of judgment come?" Jesus told him, "No, but were you so weak when you died?" He said, "No, I died at a young age, but I thought the day of judgment has come today, and out of this fear my hair has completely turned white." This old man, his statement is authenticated by this verse of Surah Al-Muzammil. The day of judgment will make children old. Then Jesus told him, "Tell us about your grandfather's ark." And from the word grandfather, it seems that this grave was indeed of Ham's son Canaan. Anyway, after this, that old man told about Noah's ark in great detail, from which we get very rare information that I will now share with you. But when he had given all this information, the disciples' mouths were left wide open in amazement, and they requested Jesus, "O Jesus, if you permit, we would take him to our home so we could ask him more things." But Jesus said, "No, how can he stay with you when his sustenance has already been lifted from the world?" Then the prophet ordered him, that is Ham or Ham's son Canaan, whoever he was, to go back to your world again. And thus that person became soil again by mixing into the heap of earth. Now the information I am going to give you about Noah's ark, some of this information comes from that old man Ham, or Canaan. Besides this, some information is taken from At-Tabaqat al-Kubra, and all the remaining information I have collected with great effort from different places of 44 commentaries. That is, altogether perhaps more than 50 books, which took more than 2 weeks, and which I am now going to share with all of you. Imam Baghawi says that when Allah ordered Noah to make this ark, the Prophet said, "My Lord, I don't know how to make an ark, so how will I make it?" At that very moment Gabriel descended and said, "Your Lord has said that, Noah, you are before my eyes. Therefore, you will not make any mistake in making this." And this narration is also supported by the Quran, because the words of Surah Hud are, "Noah, make the ark before our eyes according to our revelation." And after this revelation, Noah had formally begun making the ark. Imam Qurtubi, who wrote a very great commentary on the Quran, tells us that Noah needed teak wood to make this ark. Imam Ibn Ishaq and Sufyan al-Thawri also give the same information that the ark was made from teak wood. And for your information, let me tell you that teak is called teak in English. And construction with its wood happens like this. With great effort, I found a picture of a bridge from Myanmar for you where you can see a bridge made from teak wood. The teak tree is quite tall and quite strong. And for this purpose, it is also cultivated at industrial level so that construction-grade wood can be obtained from it. And some narrations show that Noah had also formerly cultivated this teak tree and grown an entire forest which took 100 years to mature, and later from which he had obtained wood in such large quantities. Now, what were the dimensions of this ark? Look, we may never know the exact length and width. In those times, units of cubits and spans were used, whereas today we measure in meters and feet. And cubits have also been different in different times, they have kept changing. But this much can definitely be known, rather can be known from Ibn Abbas, that the ark was approximately 1,200 yards long, 600 yards wide, and 30 yards high. Length and width have been stated with slight differences. But regarding height, all the companions and all the followers say the same thing, that the ark was 30 yards high. And the resurrected old man had also told the same. And he had also told that this ark was built in 3 stories. That is, it had 3 compartments or 3 levels. In the lowest portion, predators and wild animals were to live. In the middle portion, humans were to live. And in the topmost portion, birds and those animals that eat grass were to live. And the front of this ark was curved like a bird's chest so that it could counter water waves in the best way. Well, now from Tafsir al-Majari and the oldest and greatest commentary on the Torah, Midrash, we learn that Noah had applied some kind of coating inside and outside the ark. That is, he had also done some kind of coating on the wood. which could be anything similar to epoxy, maybe, so that water could not enter the ark, and that coating, that is epoxy, could create some kind of water barrier. And in that ark there were a total of 4 places from where one could enter, 3 windows and 1 door that would close like a lid. But then some narrations also show that besides these, there were also windows and doors that would remain closed. Look, whatever I tell you, I wish you would also imagine it simultaneously. Because although I try my best to show you the most accurate artwork possible according to the description of something, realistic artwork of how that thing would look, but remember that a human mind is more powerful than any artwork. And when I imagine Prophet Noah's Ark, it seems to me as if they had designed some kind of very large submarine-like thing. Because according to Tabakat al-Kubra, the ark mostly remained submerged in water, and only up to 6 cubits was visible above water. Now, if you imagine this, clearly this will feel like some kind of submarine to you. Now an ark of this scale, about which we can clearly see that this is not the ark that Noah later just pushed into the sea. Rather, a naval ship of this scale, a vessel of this scale is always prepared at such a place from where water itself can pull it into itself. Therefore, I made a little effort to find out where this ark was built, and the name I found most in books was Jabal Nuh. And if you remember, Jabal Nuh is exactly the same place where Adam was sent down to this world, which is a great reference, by the way. That the beginning of Adam's era started from here, and from here the beginning of the world after Noah also began, and which I think is a very beautiful thing. And once this ark was ready, then phase 2 of this incident begins. That is, the stage of seating humans and animals inside the ark. Regarding humans, we know to a considerable extent that the people boarding the ark were approximately 80. That is 80. That is, 7 people from Noah's own household and the remaining 73 people from his own community. That is, a total of 80. Some other narrations mention even fewer people, such as 10 people. But most first-generation scholars mention 80 people. But animals. Now that's a very interesting topic. Because I know that recently some scholars have emerged to say, look, it's not possible that Noah took all animals. Therefore, there would have been just a few countable animals that are found in every village, such as cows, buffaloes, goats, etc. That's why I considered it very necessary to study each and every detail of Noah's incident regarding animals, so that the truth could be reached. What animals were they? How many animals were there? And most importantly, were there really just cows and buffaloes, or were there pairs from all the animals of the world? So come on, let me share the answer to this question with you too. Regarding the animals that were to board the ark, the command that Prophet Noah received basically appears in 2 places in the Quran. One in Surah Hud. O Noah, board pairs from every kind of animal in this ark. And the second command in Surah Al-Mu'minun. O Noah, keep a pair of every kind in this ark, and along with this your family members too. Now look, although both these verses are very clearly stating that Noah was instructed to keep a pair of every kind of animal. But as I told you, nowadays there is a school of thought that says, look, it doesn't make sense that all animals were present. Therefore, he would have kept only cows and buffaloes. But no. After studying countless Arabic commentaries, traditions of the companions, and narrations of the followers very carefully, I have reached the conclusion that no, Prophet Noah had literally kept pairs of all animals. And it is very important to understand this, because if we only talk about cows and buffaloes, believe me, you will make the stature of this great flood very small. You will not even reach the question of why this flood came at all. And regarding these animals, now listen to these narrations that I have collected with great effort. Imam Ibn Abi Hatim has quoted a hadith of the Prophet in his commentary. This hadith has also been narrated by Imam Ibn Jarir, that when all animals were boarded on Noah's ark, people expressed a concern. O Prophet of Allah, in the presence of the lion, other animals are getting very disturbed. So how will this journey pass? So Noah prayed to his Lord. And then, for the first time in this world, a disease called fever descended which affected the lion, and it lay down weakened. Although before this no disease like fever existed in the world. Then people complained about mice. "O Prophet of Allah, mice are spoiling our food, cutting the ropes of the ship." So Allah instilled this thing in the cat's nature that it would chase mice. And after this, throughout the journey, those mice remained huddled in a corner out of fear of cats. Lion, mice, cats. Certainly, this narration indicates the presence of far more animals on the ark than cows and buffaloes. Listen to another narration. Imam Jalaluddin as-Suyuti has narrated this tradition from Imam Ibn al-Mundhir in his commentary. And Ibn al-Mundhir says that he heard this from the companion Ikrimah, that when Noah boarded the lion on the ark, he prayed to his Lord, "O my Allah, soon this animal will ask me for food, so where will I bring its food from?" At that time, revelation came to the Prophet. "Noah, don't worry, because soon I will stop it from eating food." Until fever overcame the lion. And a point came that when even a sheep passed in front of it, it just looked at the sheep once and then went back to sleep. Then another narration is also found from Imam Jalaluddin as-Suyuti. And by the way, I had also told you in the previous episodes what caliber of scholar Jalaluddin as-Suyuti was. The world knows him as Ibn al-Kutub, meaning son of books. And from his collected narration we learn that when it was time to board snakes and scorpions on the ark, Noah got into thinking and said, "You people are a cause of harm and trouble, so how can I admit you into the ark?" So the Prophet was ordered, "Admit them, they will not harm anyone." And at that time, while climbing onto the ark, snakes and scorpions recited Allah's praise and said about Noah, "Peace be upon Noah in all the worlds," which by the way is also a verse of the Quran. And let me tell you an interesting thing in this regard. Hafiz ibn Sakir brings another narration in his book Tariq Dimashq from the companion Abu Umama, in which the Prophet said, "Whoever recited the verse of Surah As-Safat in the evening, peace be upon Noah in all the worlds, then for that night that person became safe from snakes and scorpions." Therefore, snakes and scorpions were also on the ark, which suggests that besides cows and buffaloes, many other animals were also on the ark. Listen to another narration. Imam Hakim at Tirmidhi, a very great first-generation Muslim scholar, writes in his book Nawadir al-Usul. Rather, after him, Imam Ibn Jarir, Ibn al-Mundhir, and Abu Shaykh narrate from the companion Ibn Abbas. And I am deliberately telling you all these names today so that you know that the narrations I am sharing with you have not been stated by second or third grade people, but by top first-generation Muslim scholars who had directly obtained their knowledge from companions and followers. In this narration, it says that filth was becoming a major issue on the ark. From animal waste, dirt was spreading a lot. So at that time, pigs were appointed to clean the dirt. And the words of this narration are that at that time, pigs were with elephants. Pigs and elephants, there are narrations about their presence on this ark too, which suggests once more that all kinds of animals were present on this ark. And going forward, I will also tell you why it is important to know this. Because once you realize that all animals were indeed present on this ark, it will become easier for you to believe in a global flood rather than a local one. Easier to believe in a flood that came to the entire world rather than just a settlement. And what was the reason for drowning the entire world? For that there will be a completely separate session, inshallah, perhaps in the next, or the episode after that. Another narration about animals that is narrated from Wahb ibn Munabbi. And according to my knowledge, Wahb ibn Munabbi is the only follower scholar who had knowledge of 92 heavenly books. Wahbi says that regarding animals, Prophet Noah asked, "My Lord, how do I board sheep and wolf together? My Lord, how will dove and cat stay together?" So Allah revealed, "Noah, who was the one who put enmity between them? Who was the one who designed their natures?" Noah submitted, "My Lord, certainly you." Allah said, if I can put enmity between them, then creating love between them is also not difficult for me, so much so that they will not harm each other. This narration reaches us directly from Wahb ibn Munabbi. Then another saying of Ibn Abbas where he says, "First of all, Noah admitted into the ark that species of ant which is the smallest, and at the very end, a pair of donkeys. But when the donkey was entering, at that time Satan clung to its tail, started pulling it backwards, due to which the donkey started struggling to enter inside, started striving to push itself forward. So Noah called out to it, 'Come inside, no matter what evil may be with you.' And Satan took these words of the prophet as permission for himself too. He immediately left the donkey's legs and himself also entered the ark in the form of an evil. And some classical commentators say, that Satan remained hanging upside down from the ceiling of the ark the whole time. Rather, another incident with Satan that happened on the ark comes to my mind, which I am telling you now. But consider these narrations. Just imagine for a minute. Lions, elephants, wolves, snakes, scorpions, pigs, ants, cats, doves. After hearing all these narrations, do you still feel that there were only a few necessary animals on that ark? Cows, buffaloes, goats, etc. No, it is very unfair that just because something doesn't fit someone's mind, they completely reject that thing. This becomes a great scholarly injustice. To accept the few animals theory, you would have to discard all these narrations, all these sayings of the followers and traditions received from followers and companions. You would have to completely close your eyes. Only then can you believe that yes, there would have been just a few necessary animals. I have spent 2 weeks working day and night to collect data from 44 commentaries. And I have not found a single classical commentary that mentions that there were only cows and buffaloes on the ark. Rather, on the contrary, every major commentary contains evidence of predators, herbivores, and birds. Exactly like the Qur'anic verse is clear about this. Noah, take a pair from every kind of animal. I had just told you that Satan had also entered the ark by clinging to the donkey's tail. Imam ibn Abi ad-Dunya, who was a very great hadith scholar of the 9th century, narrates a strange incident in his book Maqa'id ash-Shaytan, which he heard from Abdullah ibn Umar, the son of Umar. And Abdullah ibn Umar, by the way, was also a companion of the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Umar says that when Noah saw Satan on the ark, at that time he appeared in the form of a very old and aged person whom the Prophet did not recognize. So the Prophet asked him, "Who are you?" Now he didn't give a direct answer but says, "I have entered Noah, so that I can rule over the hearts of your companions. And I do this work with 5 things, of which I can tell you 3 things, but I will never tell you 2 things." And at that very moment, Abdullah ibn Umar says, "At that very moment revelation came to Noah. O Noah, you don't need to know the things he wants to tell, and regarding the things he wants to hide, you should know about them. Therefore, order him to immediately tell you those 2 things." And Noah did exactly that. Now, by the Prophet's command, some effect came upon Satan that he blurted out, "Lust and greed, Noah. These are those 2 things. Lust and greed, that is, human physical needs and greed for valuable things. These are my 2 weapons with which I rule over human hearts." I had read this incident during my research work, and although this incident is not directly very relevant to our topic, I still felt that I must share it with all of you so that we try to avoid it. Therefore, may Allah help us. But what I really want to share with you is this. How did Noah gather all these animals on his ark? The answer to this question is found from Imam Bagawi and Jalaluddin as-Suyuti, that when Noah had boarded all humans on the ark, he prayed to Allah, "My Lord, I have boarded humans, but how do I bring wild animals, quadrupeds, predators, and birds from the forest and board them here?" Allah revealed to the Prophet, "O Noah, this is my responsibility. I will gather them before you." until Gabriel came and opened such a door before Noah's eyes that Noah started seeing every animal. So much so that the prophet would extend both his hands forward, and naturally male animals would come into his right hand and female animals of the same species into his left hand. And Noah would keep pulling them and placing them at the door of his ark. Exactly this same narration has been narrated by Hafiz ibn Sakir in his book Tariq Dimashq from Imam Zuhri too, and the same explanation is found from As-Suyuti too, through some kind of door. Noah himself was uncertain about how he would gather the animals, but Allah said, "You don't worry about this, because gathering animals is my responsibility." And some kind of door. Gabriel opened some kind of door before Noah through which the prophet started seeing every animal, from where the prophet was taking out with both hands and boarding them on the ark. And what word do we use for these doors? I think now I don't even need to tell you this because I have already made an entire series on these doors. Doors of wonder. Do you know what narration Ishaq ibn Bishr took from Ali ibn Abi Talib, and then Ibn Asakir from Ishaq ibn Bishr? Ali ibn Abi Talib says that Noah had also boarded all species of trees on the ark. Regarding these trees, Abu Shaykh has specifically mentioned the narration of ajwa dates and almond trees from Jaifar bin Muhammad that Noah had also boarded them on his ark. I can tell you countless more incidents. Even incidents of the lion injuring Noah are available. How when the prophet's foot hit the lion's paw, the lion scratched the prophet's shin, and Noah remained awake the whole night in pain. And these are not Israelite incidents at all, but these are incidents narrated by first-generation Muslim scholars that can be found written in ancient and rare books. And I have so many of these incidents that, if I start narrating them, perhaps 2 more episodes would be made just about the specimens present on Noah's Ark. But there are 2 more things that I consider necessary to share with you. Imam Zuhri and Imam Muqatil narrate another tradition from Ibn Abbas that among the most amazing things present on Noah's Ark were also 2 gems, 2 stones, some kind of 2 gemstones, one of which was black in color and the other white, and both kept changing colors. When morning came, the white stone would become completely white, neon white color, and when night came, the black stone would become completely black, jet black color. It seems as if those 2 stones were some kind of 2 timepieces that were being used to determine time on the ark. And then, in the human section of that ark, the body of Adam was also present. In the previous episode, I had told you in great detail that incident of how Adam had advised his sons, "After the flood, bury me near the Holy Land." And you will also remember that I had told you that incident of how later Khidr buried Adam's body, and after that you had received a prayer for long life. That whole incident, of course, I'm not repeating now, but you saw what amazing incidents occurred during Noah's flood. But let me tell you something interesting. Today was just a beginning. I still have to show you that flood when the flood itself started, what all happened with that ark at that time. But all that now, inshallah, in the next episode of the Time Travel series. And now you must do 2 things. First, please like this video, because this way this video also reaches other family members of the channel. And second, to continue this research work, I need support from all of you. And how to give support? For that, please read my pinned comment, the top comment below. Once. Thank you and goodbye.